Hello everybody. Right, this one's obviously a little bit different. As you can see, we are in Exeter City Stadium for Season 2, Episode 7 of my Game Changer podcast. Firstly, I just want to say a massive thank you to Scott Palfrey, for letting us do this. This is absolutely amazing. But now, as I always do, I'm going to let my guest introduce himself, and away we go.
Yeah, so pleasure to be here. My name's Jack Balchin. I'm a football coach down from England, Exeter, sort of southwest. I coach in many setups, so I coach for Exeter City's Community Trust, as well as Elmore and Crediton football clubs. Previously done work with Exeter University, and now, thanks to Finian here, started my own one-to-one coaching business. So yeah, happy to be on it.
Excellent. And right, so just to start off, to give people a little bit of a background of how we got to know each other and sort of where our relationship started.
Me, yeah, okay. Yeah. Sorry. So essentially, I'm on LinkedIn. Obviously, Finian's on LinkedIn, bit of a creator on there. Temis Sands put a brilliant post up, sharing a great use of resources, encouraging people to reach out to these people. And so Finian's on there. Of course, I had to give him a text, just say, look, I appreciate the work you're doing, and if you want to get in contact, I'd love to do that. And yeah, so then he's got in contact with me. Arranged a little trip down to Devon, and here we are now in Exeter City Stadium, following on from earlier today, having been on a trip to the training ground watching the under-18s train.
Yeah, no, so it's been good. Exactly as Jack said, LinkedIn's been powerful. Just sort out so much of this trip, and like we were saying, we were out in the training ground earlier on in the Cliff Hill training ground, and putting my coaching hat on, as I am one as well. I'm gonna ask Jack, what did he pick up from this morning? What was one thing he's gonna take away? Because we met some amazing coaches that were coaching with the under-18s this morning, and yeah, mate, what did you pick up this morning?
I love it. Okay, keeping engagement levels high within a session through differentiation of purpose. So whilst you can have your session aim and you can have what you want to take from the session, what I thought was really powerful, which the 18s coach led with today, was that he would pick up on different game moments within a session, and he would quite frantically switch from one to another to make sure his players were staying switched on. Obviously, sort of little punishments within there to keep them keen and keep them with what was happening. So I'd say that's it, really.
Yeah, I have to say, yeah, one thing that I really liked is obviously they had a topic that they were working on, and even throughout the practice they were always going back to the topic, and I think that's powerful as well as coaches, because you want to know if players are switched on. Today is obviously for most teams match day -1, Friday leading into a Saturday, and sometimes you can go off, you can say you did a great training session, but if stuff happens in the match tomorrow and it doesn't work, and that was one thing that I thought was absolutely brilliant, that the players were constantly reminded of the main topic of the session. They could be in the middle of a possession game, they could be in the middle of a phase of play, and it was always brought back. And one thing I always ask is, everybody wants to go off and they want to just grow and explore, but where do you want to take yourself with everything that you do?
Okay, so a personal goal for where I myself might find myself in 10 years would be coaching within a professional club, ideally within a senior sort of first team setup. But sort of a bigger and more general goal that I have is to make all players that I work with more flary and creative. So for me, all that looks like is just sort of breaking them away from the way that they've been coached for most of their playing careers, which is now quite like, I'm lost on the word of it, but quite stuck and quite stuck in a box, really. And I'd just love to break players out of that and get them playing all with a smile on their face and enjoying their football again.
And you mentioned creative, one word, and flary. For those of you who don't know, I obviously have a lot more details, but these are two of your slogans, keywords, phrases for your business. So tell the audience about your business, and obviously just going back even to what you were saying about the creating and flary, what's the sort of the point behind that? So there's your two questions.
I like it. So Creating Flary Ballers is the company slogan, and Pulse Ballers is the company name. All right, so essentially everything I want us to do, hence the name, is sort of with passion, with enthusiasm, hence the Pulse. A bit sad really, but I enjoy it. And the Ballers because everything I want to happen is just centred around the player, a very player-centred approach. And yeah, I love it. So the business mostly focuses on one-to-ones, with a side of small group sessions if needed. And yeah, I mean, thanks to this man here, we've managed to get it set up, and I'm enjoying it so far. I still get to have a session, but I'm sure by the time this video airs, there'll have been one or two.
Excellent, excellent. And just sort of like a hypothetical type situation, I come to you. I mean, I played in numerous positions, but where I played most was actually as a right back. But for me, I come to you. I want to be more comfortable on the ball, and we're doing a session. What sort of ideas, principles, philosophies? What's a session going to look like for me? If I'm coming to you as a right back and I see you create flary ballers, maybe is there certain skills that you think like a right back needs to use? Just tell me about a session for me.
Okay, the session design itself, if you were actually to look at the pitch, it would look very much like this, what we've got behind us. And you notice now, this pitch hasn't got cones littered on it. It's because on a match day, you don't play with cones littered on your pitch. And so I'll try and stay away from that as much as I can. Often I'll sort of create boxes. So for a right back, for example, around our touchline here. So I'll try and create a box looking at receiving zones, passing zones, areas that are just going to affect the player during a game. Obviously, if a player comes to me sort of saying, okay, I want to be more effective at beating a winger 1v1, then I might look at little shift skills and flicks and tricks in there that we can get better at. But again, if you're a right back, you come to me this year, this is what we're looking at, this sort of area. Looking at receiving from a goalkeeper, then playing to the next phase. So sort of broken up into phases with, again, as few cones as we can have.
And why, we've obviously spoken about this a lot, and I do agree. I think cones and mannequins and whatever, they definitely have their benefits, but a lot of sessions that I would do as well have very, very limited amount of cones. And going back to what you were saying, why do you think it's important to maybe blend the two? Maybe sometimes you're working in a box and sometimes you're working just on a grass pitch.
Okay, yeah, so the reason I'd work on a grass pitch would be just to give them that game reel feeling. And the reason I might then add in the box would be so that they have almost restrictions with their touches and that sort of stuff. So we're looking at keeping your touch really tight, or we might imagine a cone or a mannequin is a player. But where I can, again, if I could get a real player to come and put pressure on, I'll do that rather. Again, for me, it's mainly about keeping away from littering a pitch with cones, because when's the right back going to take in a cone, right? It's not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And then one thing as well that I always find fascinating, because every coach has got their own philosophy, but the one thing I always think as well, and this is how you get players to come back, but how do you mix learning, also challenging, and then having fun?
Yeah.
And I just this can even go obviously go onto your own coaching, because I know like you coach a number of teams, but how do you sort of mix all that with the players you have, the one-on-one business you want to go off and bring?
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of the stuff I do is built around chaos within a session, but for the sake of you know, organisation on a match day. And so whilst my sessions with my players, they might look fun, and you know, we can get to some two-touch and we can get to stuff like that. If I've got a centre-half coming to me and he knows he's playing a team at the weekend that's going to put lots of balls in high, he's going to need good aerial control. So something like two-touch, perfect way for them to actually work on what they need to, whilst thinking they're just having a good time out on the football pitch.
Absolutely, and I think what is really, really important with that is centre-back comes to you, he just sees you playing two-touch, and he might not have this idea of, oh, well, this is actually going to benefit me. He's just saying, right, well, like Jack said, everybody has to go off and play two-touch. But in reality, if he's improving his chest control, his heading control, his aerial control, that sometimes it's like these hidden gems of drills that like players don't really fully understand.
And I'll help you with that as well then, because I'm fortunate enough to work with a lot of very difficult players that challenge me a lot of times. And so actually, if you were to ask any of my sessions, any of my players at my session, normally before or even after a game, they could tell you what they've worked on and why they're working on it, which for me is the most important, the why behind the what. Because if they don't know why they're doing something, the learning isn't going to take place as well. But if I tell my right back that he's making this shift between his feet to beat someone down the line, all of a sudden he's got a picture in his head.
Yeah. And what you've just mentioned brings me back to a question that I usually always ask at the start, but I've forgotten. It's about your why. So what is your why? Why do you like football? Why do you like coaching? Sort of like, when did it all start? I mean, like, because the way I see it, I think most people's why is to do with a purpose, whether it's to make themselves happy, make other people happy. But what's your why in coaching or in football in general?
I'm going to be as general as I can and just say that, look, I love football. I've been a fan. To be fair, football wasn't a big part of my childhood growing up. It never was. I didn't really come from a football family. I played when I was very young, then stopped for a long time, and then got back into playing before COVID. I was really unfortunate to pick up an injury in both knees. I was never a great player, I'm not going to go down that route, but I picked up an injury in both knees, which sort of meant playing was out of my options. And I thought, you know what, I've had some decent coaches that have contributed to me, but also I've had a lot of things that I'd like to have learnt as a player that no coach gave me. And so I thought what would be really valuable is now if I can step out onto a pitch and help a player or help a friend by, giving them a bit of information that perhaps they wouldn't be able to learn on their own.
Yeah.
And just walking them through something and just trying to break it down. And I think the why and the learning is why I do it, because I love to learn more myself. But then being able to, that look in a player's eyes once that switch goes and they've figured it out. Jack's explained it to me, I've done it, and oh my days, now it works. When they get to that light bulb moment, that for me is why I do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely brilliant. And you obviously you spoke about learning. Obviously, I think it's massive when players come down to sessions that there is some sort of learning for every player. Not that they have to learn something new. It might be maybe a skill that we worked on a couple of weeks ago, but can we just go off and see is there any progression? Can they obviously go off and do it on both feet? But in terms of your own learning, what are you looking at kind of like in the next month, next 6 months, next year? What do you want to learn to maybe better yourself as a coach, as a person, and everything else?
Yeah, great question. More about different environments. So, as I say, I've worked for a university team. I've sort of done some observations within the academy. What I'd love to do is actually be in an academy and learn how it runs, how it works. As well, I'd love to do a bit more work on individual development plans and even perhaps learn a bit more from my educators. I'm still at college myself, so to learn from the people that teach me how they teach, I think would really help me. Obviously, a bit longer term, probably to get on my sorry for that. The Open B license would be ideal, but as a part of that, to get on my B, I need to consolidate my C, and I need to sort of feel happy with the learning that I've made there and put it in place.
Yeah. No, excellent. So, you can obviously correct me if I'm wrong. So you've recently passed your UEFA C, yeah? Yeah. So obviously, I think most people, and it's not just in football. Like you can be a doctor, you can be a chef, you can be anything else. But most people, they get a certificate or a qualification, and it's like on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one. And I actually think it's so important to obviously, exactly like you said, use all the learnings that you got. Obviously, you get loads of notes at all these courses, but use the learnings to then go off and progress, because if you just go off and progress to the next level and progress, you genuinely don't pick up stuff on how and what works. But going back as well, because when you learn something, there's always going to be some sort of challenges. Obviously, I know a lot more, and the audience needs to obviously know a lot more about the challenges sort of we've been through together over the last month. But if you want to explain to them about what sort of challenges we've obviously come across, because as Jack said, I've helped him launch his own business, and then as well mixed in with the learnings. What sort of learnings have you picked up from those challenges, like for the last 5-6 weeks?
Yeah, biggest piece of learning is that research is key before going into something. I think you have to know the market that you're going into. In my case, it's selling to players and to parents, so you need to have sort of a multidisciplined approach. I think that the learning that I did was massive around business licensing and trademarking and patenting, and I just sort of sat down with you, didn't I? And I sort of looked into every different aspect of a business and where things work, but more importantly for me, where things don't work. Because I think if you can learn from others' mistakes, it's better than learning from their successes. Yeah. Because how many of your friends have done something good, but they don't tell you about what they've done bad and how what they did bad led them to the good. So I think really, if I was to suggest anything to anyone, it would be, if you're going into something new, look at what people have done wrong and where you can learn from that. Don't just look at what people have done wrong for the sake of it, but just take some learning away from everything.
Yeah, no, 'cause yeah. I can sort of vouch for him, and he'll tell you he did a lot of research. We were on a lot of calls, changing things, reorganising things, and just like with everything that you do, it's going to be a process. And the exact same thing as I was saying, you can't just wake up one day and whatever. Be fortunate enough to manage. Obviously, this is a professional club, professional setup. Me and Jack can't just wake up tomorrow and say, right, well, I want to be the manager of Exeter City. It's a process. You need to obviously get into the academy. You need to sort of build up your trust and obviously your reputation as well. And like that, the more you sort of enjoy the process, which can be tough at times, because we obviously with this, when you want something and it doesn't work out, or something else is trademarked and all kind of stuff, it can be very, very hard. But you mentioned this at the very, very start, but I want to sort of just go back and just talk about it a little more. But like you sort of your big massive goals in all these podcast episodes, I talk about people's massive goals. So I'm not just talking about like getting a promotion. I'm talking about like, I love people that are like, they're realistic, but it might be a little bit out of the ordinary. But yeah, I'm not putting you on the spot. You don't have to obviously say what you don't want to say, but I'm going to go, one is obviously in football, because this is obviously about football, and number two in life. So what are your two main, like, massive goals? And it can be clubs, national teams, you name it.
Okay, so football is, well, my main goal for that would be that I can create something, whether that be a product or an idea or a philosophy, that actually encourages players to play more creatively, and so that we get back to this here. This is where the stuff happens. This is what people come on a Saturday to watch, and just working through trainings and finding something that can ultimately get players back to being more creative and more flary.
Yeah.
And true ballers again, like JJ Butcher. And then probably my big life goal. So that's the right question. I'm just gonna, whilst I'm thinking I'm gonna talk, but you said something a minute ago, right? And you said, you know, you just don't end up here one day. You don't wake up one day and you don't think, I want to be here, I want to be manager of Exeter City.
Yeah.
With that being said though, don't plan for too long. You have to start acting for anything to happen.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you don't act, just don't wait. Just don't wait, because I've waited too long for too many things and they pass you by. Should have started playing sooner, didn't, got injured. Should have started coaching sooner, didn't. Now I'm, you know, got a bit more to learn. But I guess going back to your question, my biggest life goal would just for anyone that meets me to be able to walk away and look, say, you know, Jack's this happy-go-lucky, smiley ginger bloke that, you know, can be aggravating but cannot be at the same time, and I get along with him. But I'd just like to have an impact on other people.
Excellent. And as I said, I think the first time I met him, he'd blend in Ireland, obviously with his whole stereotypical leprechauns that are obviously ginger. But just for those who are watching, there is no leprechauns over in Ireland, just in case you thought that was true. But yeah, what you sort of spoke about there is legacy, really. So I think people who obviously start to do stuff, I want to make change. The exact same with me, with the work that I do for you. And I think that takes time. You're obviously 18 years of age now, and like realistically, like you probably won't have a legacy like for another 10 or 20 years, because that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, for you, just imagine 40-year-old Jack. We're still here, sitting in the stands of Exeter, watching players on the weekend. Just sort of off the top of my head, is legacy for you coming down here, watching and saying, I trained him, or I've given him a chance to, like, at the end of the day, football's entertainment. Yeah, people might not think it, but like, what we see out there is entertainment, and you obviously probably want to maximise the entertainment and maybe increase the entertainment. Like, would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah, football's becoming too much. I don't know what it would be, but industrial.
Yeah.
You know, it's too much now. I'll watch these adverts every 3 minutes while you're watching a game. I don't like that. Legacy for me in 20 years' time, let's say, would be that I could be coaching at this club, whether that be with the first team or the 18s or whatever, or the under 12s, under 9s even. And just for me to be able to coach at this club, and there be able to be people in this ground that know about me, know I've helped players, but more important than knowing about me, like me and want me to be here. And I think that's the main thing for me, is that wherever I am, I just want people to be, you know, they say putting a value in your presence, don't they?
Yeah.
And I think as long as people value my presence, I'm in a good place.
Excellent. And look, it's easy for us to say because we're here. We've met some amazing people this morning. Like even I've only been here the last couple of days, and I can see how much this club means to the city. For those of you who don't know, this is a supporters-run club, or a fan-run club, so it's absolutely amazing. But just, you've obviously grown up here. You don't live too far away from here either. But just talk to me about what Exeter City, what this football club means to you, and obviously like to this city as well.
Exeter City means not being able to get tickets to Plymouth Argyle away. Exeter City means not being able to get tickets to Man City away. Whether it's fans here in these brilliant stands, and I'm sure at the end of the video we'll quickly show you the big bank, but it's got a heart at the top of it, and that's what it means. To be an Exeter City fan, it is about passion, being behind the players. It's such a, it is a small ground, it's about 8,000 capacity, I think. But being Exeter City is something to its community, and it really means something. Obviously, you mentioned it being fan-owned. It's immense that we are fan-owned, because you look back a good couple of years ago now, and the club was nearly going bankrupt.
Yeah.
Obviously, it got saved, thank goodness, because if it wasn't here today, we wouldn't be here today. So we can only be grateful for that. But Exeter City look rich in history. The first team ever to play Brazil national team. I mean, that big bank, as I say, we will show you it at some point. That big bank is the second largest standing terrace in Europe, second to Borussia Dortmund. So you ask any Exeter City fan and they'll be so happy to tell you that their club's got something up against Dortmund. But no, look, just being an Exeter City fan, there's nothing like it, and every person in the city centre will be able to tell you something about Exeter City, and that's what it means. It is like a virus that just spreads, and but a positive virus, right? And one that puts a smile on your face when you say it.
Well, go on here. We'll spin the camera around. We'll have a look at the big bank here. Obviously, as you can see, you can tell the people more about this. And for those of you, I hope you can see, if I'm not in the way, the heart at the top.
Yeah. So again, it used to be the Red Legion up there. So that used to be a big section of fans. Red Legion aren't with us now. It's mostly youngsters in the heart these days. But yeah, get down on a match day. You hear the drum going. It's going to be one of the loudest grounds in League One, in my opinion. And that's not biased, it's just a fact. It's, as I say, it's a tight stadium, and so the noise just rings around. But yeah, that stand is special, and it means something to everyone at this football club.
Excellent. Well, we'll spin back around so we can chill out here. Yeah, no. Also, as well, for those who don't know, FA Cup, massive historical cup over in England, and Exeter recently played against Man City. And I think what some people don't realise, because look, especially for me, I'm obviously from Ireland, and we obviously have our own FAI Cup as well. But like, when a smaller team plays against like Man City, absolute superpower in football nowadays, I mean, it must be so exciting to go off. I mean, I know you said you couldn't get to the game, but I mean, even when we were speaking to the staff today, it's just that one goal. You can I forget the guy's name, but you can tell everybody who scored. But the one goal that Exeter City actually scored in that game was probably the best goal of the lot. Like, I know Man City scored 10 goals and they have players that are worth tens of hundreds of millions, but I mean, that one goal is going to live in the memory of so many Exeter City fans for so long.
Yeah, look, a brilliant moment in what has been told to me was a somber day. I'll be honest, I managed to get it on the telly. Don't ask me how, because I'm not allowed to say. But listen, that game, Exeter City put up a good fight. The first 30 minutes, they were pretty strong, in honesty. It's unfortunate the way the goals went in, but and when that goal hit the back of the net, I'm told the City section went mental. You could hear it on the telly, and then Man City in response in the library, they gave a big amount of noise for their 10th goal. But any Exeter City fan that went there would tell you they were proud and that they were truly happy with what happened that day. Excellent, and at least with the experience.
Yeah, no, I think that's what it is, and. Even for me, right? This is a new experience. This is obviously, as you can see, this is the first podcast episode I've ever done in a stadium. Unbelievable. Like I said, I can't thank the staff here at Exeter City enough for this opportunity. Setting up a business with Jack. I've set up my own, and setting up a business is another new experience. And one thing that we had conversations earlier on today, and talking about having experiences in life is just amazing. And I think people sometimes don't realise, because you see the Premier League, you see Man City, Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, all these massive teams that have got so much money, and the experiences that football can bring you has been absolutely amazing. I mean, like, look, you're obviously very, very young in terms of starting out your career, but I mean, is there one experience maybe that sits in the back of your mind? Was there a game that you were here, maybe a game you saw on TV, or something else, childhood memory that you love?
Yeah, well, I think last season, or maybe the season before, Nottingham Forest came to play here.
Yeah.
And so that was a massive occasion. Obviously, it didn't really affect my coaching journey because I was already coaching before it. But, you know, it's a special day. As I say, the ground was sold out that game. Yeah. And it was well and truly packed. I mean, they had I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing, just over Finian's head there. They had now I wouldn't know the word for it, but like a scaffolding turret built.
Oh, wow.
And Roy Keane, Ian Wright, and all of those were in it with a view onto the pitch as well. So to have so many big people at this big club is what it is, you know. I mean, the lowest wage budget in League One supposedly, and yet they still at the moment probably one of the form teams in the league, really. So yeah, an incredible thing.
Now, I mean, this is obviously a bit of a harder question to ask you, because you're obviously a lot younger, but I mean, I don't know if you would have always seen yourself in a place like this, but maybe even say like advice to people your own age, people starting out their coaching journey. What would you say? Maybe what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you, or yeah, just anything that you can think about, whether it's the challenge you've overcome, the mentality you have, anything.
Trying to stay in difficult situations is a hard thing, but a good thing. I think one of the biggest things for me has been proving to myself that I can stay somewhere longer than I want to. Because often with youth, there's this association of, oh, I'll go here, I'll drop it, I'll go here, I'll drop it.
Yeah.
You know, I've tried to stay in clubs a bit longer than necessarily someone else my age would have. I've been given some brilliant opportunities so far, and I can only thank the people that I've worked with for that. But, you know, my biggest piece of advice to anyone else my age, coaching, playing, doing anything in life, would just be to truly enjoy it, but dedicate yourself well, because I wouldn't have had the person to ask to be on this pitch today filming this, or have gotten in contact with Finian. I wouldn't have those people if I didn't truly commit myself to the process. And so, look, I'll be honest, coaching when you start out isn't glamorous. It isn't, it isn't a financial, downpour. It isn't the most beautiful things in the world. But if you want to coach, most people would probably want to coach because they love working with the players, like I do. And so actually, any effect that I can have on a player, as I say, those light bulb moments where they switch and you can feel that difference is truly made. That for me is worth its weight in gold. So I would just say push through the harder moments, really, and just enjoy those that are good, and make sure you get lots of memories and put yourself in good environments.
Excellent. And then to start wrapping the whole thing up, there's a question that I ask everybody just towards the end of every podcast episode, and Jack spoke earlier on about just like taking action. Now I know some things aren't achievable in such a short space of time, but Jack Sweeney Lee, another mate of mine, has given me a brilliant question, and his question is that what can you work on this week? So obviously it's Friday now, but it's like between Friday now until Friday next week, what can you work on to potentially maybe give yourself like a step up in your career, or just any thoughts about what you can take action this week to improve your life, your career, and football and coaching and everything else?
Loads of things better. Just putting myself out there a bit better would be an easy one to do.
Yeah.
Focusing on keeping well documented session plans is probably something big I could do. It's always on scraps of paper. Really take pride in my work, if I'm honest, would be the biggest thing that I could do better, and let you know I've got a good support network to do that. I've got lots of people that have helped me come this far. So
yeah. No, excellent. No, I genuinely think it's important. Obviously, so having a good support network is massively important. In terms of trusting the process, absolutely massive. And then, yeah, I think like with everything that you have to do, I mean, everybody I've spoken to in the football industry or on the podcast, everybody has a massive passion. And yeah, no, just for me, look, obviously it's bringing it back to Ireland. There is obviously a couple of Irish players who play for Exeter City. We're going to go after the game tomorrow, so I'm looking forward. I know Pierce Sweeney is the captain, and he's a club fan favourite, so that's obviously good. He's from Dublin, where I'm from as well, so it's also cool, and a couple of other boys as well, based around the country, and it's always good for me. I love coming over, supporting not only this amazing club, but obviously other amazing players too. And I think you'll probably admit it. I mean, obviously, there's obviously more English players on the team than Irish players, but I think everybody sort of likes to support their own. So I'm sure, like what we know, and I'm sure anybody with Exeter knows, there's probably a few local lads as well on the team, and it's nice. Yeah. It's for them. It's a proud moment for them as well.
100%. Of course it is. I mean, look, to have people in your club, and I'm actually going to touch on a coach here, Dan Green, right? He's from Exeter, born and raised. Then he's actually got a career now with the first team as a coach, and that all comes from just, again, dedicating yourself well. And yeah, but you are right. Everyone does love someone from home. Yeah. Mind you, anyone that looks into Exeter City will find a lot about Ilmari Niskanen. He's a Finnish boy, but everyone over here loves him. Yeah. There
you go. Well, look, I hope everybody enjoyed this. Obviously, something totally new for me, and obviously for Jack as well, doing a podcast. This is unbelievable. I could get used to doing this, so I can't thank the staff enough. So I'd like to thank everybody who's sort of welcomed us really in open arms. And yeah, look, all the best to Exeter tomorrow. Take care, mate.